Oops. Administrative phase here in what, May 24th through 28th, turn 5. Now, first thing, random events, there weren't any. Union depots, all except the 9th, have pushed down here of the Army of the Potomac. I had to keep the 9th in place for Burnside. It's a good thing, because otherwise Wilson would have nowhere to draw supply from. It has to be a depot. Make sure Sedgwick is running off this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, okay. I thought he had to, but notably, Warren doesn't look like he can get a zone through here, but you can in this game. So that's not a problem. You can slip the units, the supplies through. Greg. Wow. He looks like he's out of supply. Whoops. The hell was I doing? Yeah, he's very clearly not going to be in supply from anywhere. So we get to look at the out of supply rules. This is the problem. You can't engage the enemy on the 3rd action cycle. It's just like this special action cycle because you got to set up your situation. So, oops. Thought I had everybody in. All right. We're probably in secondary supply. We're within like 25 hexes that way. And I'm sure we can make a trace the other way. Again, it's just too far though. I mean, this is the extent of that supply line. This is pretty close to the extent of that supply line. He's not in. So we can find the attrition table, which is here. He's in secondary supply. He's currently organized, and his combat value is 2 or less. So he's at -2 on the die roll. I don't know, it's unlikely he'll lose anything, but he could. Looks like it's 50-50. All right, so he's fine, but he flips over to disorganized, and really, he's got problems. Now, he can reorganize, but yeah, he's not going to be able to easily pursue where he is right now. I'm going to look at the unfatiguing rules, see if you have to be able to trace supply at that moment. I don't think you do, which is kind of strange because, oh look, I'm disorganized, but now if I rest, forage, whatever, I can improve the situation. That's the case. Supply is an advanced game rule. It would, and fatigue and unfatiguing are a base game rule. Okay. So let's look at the rest of what we got. Embarkation. We can't do it now, but maybe we want to plan for it. Let's think about that. Embarkation allows you to move from one port to another. So I could bring Army of the Potomac Corps one at a time through here. That might be a possible situation if I'm having trouble crossing this river, to make a cut across there. And really, I'd be able to move the entire Army of the Potomac there, 1 corps at a time. However, at this point, it looks like I've got a fair chance of cutting the river. So, you know, unless something goes terribly wrong, I'm probably not going to be doing it. So I'm not going to be planning for it. Railroad destruction. Okay. Here's where things get kind of neat. Gilmore would love to destroy this railroad. He has enough strength points, but he's disorganized. So that cannot happen. And actually, I don't know if he'd love to destroy it. The Richmond and Danville he'd like to destroy. I can't find a name for this one. I think it's part of the Virginia Central, but I'm not positive. No, Virginia Central starts in Richmond. Now, I have to destroy these railways. That's where a lot of the points in the game come from. So I really shouldn't be focusing so much on the outmaneuvering the enemy if I'm not also setting myself up in a situation where I can destroy the railway. So for example, attacking this, if this is an important railway, and I don't know if it is, I don't think it is actually, but if it was, I damn well shouldn't have made the attack that I did. I should have just sat here and wrecked the railroad. This full turn, 3 action cycles to do it. It's an expensive thing to do, but it's where the victory points in the game really come from. And I need a bunch. Let's see. Reinforcements, the Union got, I believe, 2. I rolled like a pair of 1s here. They took 1 with Sheridan because I always want to take cavalry if I can. And it looks like he's getting himself into a bit of a fussy situation where I may need cav. I took the other one, I think, over with Smith, just because the strength points that I have on my core pieces are high enough that I can deal with the Confederate forces. The Confederates got no reinforcements this turn. Like I said, pair of 1s. Attachment, not in any position to attach anything. So we go to the action cycle. Up kind of poorly for the Union. I activate Warren because I had the initiative. I activate Warren because I'm a little worried about getting out. I get a movement roll that could have gotten me to here, but instead I chose to hit Longstreet because I wouldn't have had the movement points to hit either Longstreet or Fitz Lee if I moved into that space. And I'm a little worried the entrenchments are gonna, cut off supply. Now, I think I can actually run supply down through there. However, that would get really dicey very fast. So I charge in, and I get a really horrible combat roll. The odds were even because the Confederates threw Lee, but it was basically, I think, a worse possibility, a 1 to 6 die roll, and ended up on this table where, nothing bad happens to the Confederates. And I ended up taking 2 casualties and disorder. Now, I was already disordered, so it's not that big a deal. Hard to tell if this was the thing the Union most wanted to move. We're in a situation where you want to take your own initiatives right now, I think. Hancock was also a possibility to force his way across this river in order to, degrade the line from both directions. That can still happen, but now the Confederates have an activation, and now they got hard calls. So if I abandon this fort line, Sedgwick can come sliding down. There may be supply issues. I'd have to be tracing from here, so there's a possibility of ugliness happening along here. The Confederates trying to protect from too many directions at once, but on the other hand, maybe they don't need to succeed at all of them. Cutting off, say, Warren may be a bad enough result for the Union. However, letting part of the Army of the Potomac get across may also be a bad result. It's hard for me to judge this. But anyhow, if I want to cut these, I can't count on these guys in the back being able to do it very quickly. So Early could come, and remember, I don't like force marching, but I'll do it if I need to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's about as far as he can reasonably expect to get as to here. A force march could get me down in here, which might be enough. Do I really care if Hancock gets down there? Well, yeah, I do, because he's got 2 more action cycles before he has to check supplies and such not. So, the possibility of a force march with Early. Early does not have a very strong force. I bet you that goes down to a 3, yeah. So I'd have like a 3-to-1 attack, but the stream makes up for that. Unfortunately, I have to cover all of these. And again, if I strip these guys, and Breckinridge has even less force, Hill could go in there. Hill might be my best move. But Hill is, of course, covering part of the Warren problem. I've got just too many gaps to defend at once here. Well, Warren's not going to be able to trace supply around this way, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, he's not going to be able to do any curving around. So I think I've got Hill free to move. So I'll just move Hill. He should be able to block this, which is my most worrisome space, I hope. I pushed him a little further and then got another activation and pushed early here. So I've got everything covered except here. And maybe Breckenridge can cover that. I don't know. He's got a long walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He'd need to roll a 7, which would be a 5 or more with a forced march if he gets an activation. And if he opens that up, he's opening this route down. How much does that matter? I don't know yet. Chances are that Anderson's little division is going to have to find its way somewhere else if that happens. And he may not be where I want him anyway. Confederates got another initiative, moved Breckenridge down to here. That helps cover Warren a little bit. It's still not guaranteed what I can cover and what I can't. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can make it cutting this way. So unless Ransom goes and runs over, or some of this, some of the cav moves over further. Now Fitz-Lee could push forward, but he wouldn't be. Oh, he would be entrenched then. Tasty. Forget about those automatic breastworks. Those give me a serious advantage towards controlling the area right around Richmond. So that's cool. So at this point, Warren is a little cut by Breckenridge. Anderson, I got a shit roll for Anderson. I didn't force march him. He only got to here. He wanted to go 1 hex more. That would have kind of forced the Union to try to push the line, try to crack the line there, or else withdraw Warren. One or the other. Either one's possible. But not if I don't crack this line, the Union's got problems. Because then they're kind of stuck behind here. They've got to think about moving to a port and shipping Army of the Potomac units onto the James. So it was kind of weird because the Confederates kept grabbing activations, and then when the Union got an initiative, they handed one over and Anderson moved here instead of trying to rush Hancock across, because I couldn't be sure what I want to do yet. I don't know what the Confederates are doing here. Who's that? That's like Stuart and Colquitt. Not terribly strong forces in either case, and it sucks to have Stuart sitting on, to have Cav sitting in a fortification. But hey, he's holding the line there. He's in an important place, and I really can't afford to move him. The Confederates are passing at this point, having covered part of the line here. I entrenched in these locations as time killers. I can't entrench Ransom. He needs to recover his forces. I moved Hampton down here, even though he's disordered, in order to cover this hex. Fitz-Lee will be covering this hex. The Union can trace through here, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I don't know. Maybe I have to move Fitz-Lee as well. I think I do. I think I have to, because the entrenchment's not going to help me one bit. Yeah. All right. So Confederates will move 1 more unit. I kind of didn't want to do this. Does it do me good? Is it bad? See, the problem is I'm too weak, even when flipped over, to exert a zone of control into here. And same thing with Hampton. He can't exert one into here. So and no matter what, there's a few hexes here that I'm just not going to be able to reach unless I move Fitzlee. All right, we'll move them. I hoped by moving Hampton I could avoid that. I get an 8, and 6 is 14. That's easily enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to here. And now I'm entrenched, so my zone of control counts for supply. Now, why is that a big deal? Could I, mainly because I couldn't exert the zone that I wanted to from here. My movement of Hampton was probably dumb. I probably wanted him somewhere else. Like, for example, on these bridges or something. Oh, well, mistakes happen, right? But at this point, the Confederates are in a position to stop activating anything. And the Union gets the initiative, so indeed, they're going to pass, and that's going to hand things to the Union. And the question now is what the Union's going to do with the rest of its moves. Once the Confederates are done, I want to see if I can crack this line before, I decide on what I'm doing with Wilson here. I move Burnside down. Wilson might want to burn this, or he might want to run down and try to open up space for maneuver by screening situations for the Union. So Sedgwick moved down to here. Hancock's attacking across. It only costs him 3. He spent 4 movement points already because there are roads on either side of the ford. So he's got 11 to 3, which gives him 3 to 1, which is +2. I've already used the lead bonus, so that's not in play here. Crossing the ford is 3 in favor of the Confederates. So right now it's at -1 net for the Union. I've got a supporting army, so I'm at even. And that's pretty much all there is. The supporting force has enough strength. Conceivably, I could have tried to set this up so that I'm using supporting divisions to attack because the Confederate forces are small enough. But I think I'd like to keep my corps together, see what I can do. I get a 0, which just definitely demoralizes the Confederate force, which I think is already hit. The Union is going to be taking a hit and a demoralization and stopping there. After failure, Wilson came down this way and burned things. I didn't have enough movement to get me into this hex. I had a lot of movement, rolled maximal, enough that I counted it. That would have been a useful hex. Otherwise, though, I didn't see much point. So I swung down, burnt Hanover Junction ahead of Burnside. He needs movement more. And then rushed into here where I took a disorder result, even though I took the location. There was something I wanted to talk about, and now I can. Oh, yes. The Confederates should not have passed before burning this bridge. That could be useful to the Union. I don't think it's going to be this action phase, which means next action phase, they can still burn it. But, yeah. Oops. Return for the Union, I guess. Couts burns another station. Hinks attempted an attack here to no effect. First time I've done it. Wasn't very impressive. Gilmore and Smith need to recover. I could send one of them to attack here. The problem is I kind of don't want Ransom to slip down and threaten my supplies. That would cause some serious problems. So I'm willing to kind of wait him out. But if he entrenches there, I mean, that's not a great location. He will be entrenching, but it'll be harder to dig him out if he's entrenched. But he can be in lots of better places. So, trying to get an attack on him, it would take a big die roll with Gilmore, and he'd have to go out of his way someplace stupid. So that's not going to happen. So I guess we're going to recover any lines forming that are of any value. I don't think so. I mean, we're entrenching down here, but that doesn't really do us any good. But some forces are recovering. Oh, no. This line is not going to be very strong. Eventually, the Union should be able to bust through that because it's not going to be fortified next turn either. But, well, we'll see. He got really unlucky this time. Burnside's goal probably is to gather his forces attach at the end of, oh shit. Can't attach until after railroad destruction. Shit. Oh, I don't know what he's going to do. The problem is I'm kind of running out of time here, and I got some railroads to destroy. And the Virginia Central is worth 6 points. That's not a huge amount of points, but I really do need a lot of victory points right now. I need to be up in the mid-50s, I think. I don't know. Yeah, not for a minor victory, but let's see. I need to get up to 25. Right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is really it. Taking the town is not that important, except the automatic victory, which is Richmond and Manchester. Now, it's quite, or Manchester. It's quite possible that I could take Manchester with Gilmore or something and win the game with an automatic victory. And that would be pretty big. Maybe that's where I should be focusing. I'm not used to an automatic victory coming out of here. Wow. Dangerous. I think the Confederates are going to have to worry about that. Because both Gilmore and Smith are really available to do this. Has to be primary range supply, but we got that running down here. So unless the Confederates can do something about that, that's a big deal. They can pin the Army of the Potomac down all day. If the Army of James wins the game, that's not good. I really wasn't keeping that in mind for either side, honestly. I thought I needed Richmond and Petersburg, in order to win. And it turns out Petersburg's unimportant, except for all those rail lines. So the Union's actually doing pretty well, I guess. Oops. Somehow between my winter depression, some activities, and the cold, I wasted an entire day or more. I didn't get any playing done yesterday. Didn't go out gaming either, which sucks. But anyway, start of this second action cycle. I think the most interesting thing is what's up with Warren. If the Union can get a quick move on, they'll want to go here. Now, here's the thing. If they go here and Fitz Lee doesn't retreat, I can attack him. If he retreats, then I would have to attack here to continue on. I believe I'm allowed to go from zone of control to zone of control. Let me make sure of that. I may not be able to even slide in that way. Beginning of march in an enemy zone of control. No, I can't, because I'm already in a zone of control. So yeah, I can't even make that, I can't even breach into there. Which means, geez, I don't even know what I can do. I mean, conceivably, I could send, I have like Sheridan here with me. I could send Sheridan, nobody's in good shape, of course, and try to punch Fitz Lee there. This would not be in a zone of control, so I could even slip down here and try to clear the way. But things look pretty ugly. I may instead have to try to save him with Hancock's force. Because if Warren can get through, he can run down and get in supply off the James. Or he could cut back here and be in supply off there. Whichever is more effective, you know. But if he can't break this line, then I gotta break this line and try to free him. So I think that may be my first situation, is see what I can do with Hancock and Sedgwick and see if they can punch their way through it. Now, of course, the Confederates aren't just going to sit there. They might end up entrenching. They have to make a decision based on some of these guys are fatigued, not fatigued, but disorganized. Early's the most important, and he's disorganized. If he just, sits there waiting to undisorganize, he'll be a weaker force and more easily brushed aside. Also, it all depends on who wins this initiative. So let's see what it is. And I think whoever wins it wants to take it, but I'm not sure. All right, Confederates won the initiative. Initiatives went to the Confederates. They entrenched Hill and Early. Anderson here is not in an important location. You might say, well, does he want to move here? Well, what's the most? Hancock or Sedgwick to move? First of all, they can't force march. So the best they can get is 10 movement points, which would get them to here and here. That breaches the river line and holds the location, but they would absolutely have to, one of them would have to roll a 6. Yeah. So I felt pretty safe not making that move yet. There's some risk, but now the Union has the initiative, and I don't know that they particularly want it anymore. The 2 actions that really needed to be done have been done. What more can happen? Well, Fitz Lee could entrench, but I don't think he can hold that position against a serious attack. It's just a serious attack may not be possible. Although I don't know. We got Sheridan down there with 2 disorganized strength points. If Sheridan, this would be impossible to walk to. I don't know. No, that looks like a creek. So that doesn't add any movement. So it would be 8, 9, 10, 11 movement points. That's possible to blow my way through. Is this the moment where I want to use Sheridan, or do I want to give the Confederates the activity? If I give the Confederates the activity, they could entrench with Fitz Lee. If they entrench with Fitz Lee, he becomes harder to push out of there. If I can push him out of there, there's a good chance that I can supply Hancock running down through here if the Confederates don't do something with Hampton or whatever. Gosh. Yep, I think I'm gonna try with Sheridan. And between the entrenchments and the General Lee bonus, Fitz Lee is able to hold his position there. It's an important enough place. Now, of course, that means General Lee's not available. Hancock could maybe bust through. Hancock busting through isn't enough, but it does set me up for a situation where I may be able to free Warren from behind on the next action cycle. Maybe even this one if Sedgwick can do it. I don't know. A fair amount of diddling has taken place. Union moved Stevenson, for example. Confederates blew both of these leaders' activities, and I think Early as well. Wow. That was probably a mistake. But, well, no, the Early and Hill entrenching. Anderson could have moved here. That might serve a purpose. But I was getting to the point of, geez, I'm going to run out of, I'm just going to end up not doing anything and not even rallying my troops if I keep waiting. So I could either pass and give the Union the entire initiative or do something. What kind of something can I possibly do that's of value? Well, Ewell attacked Warren. It ended up an even attack, a little behind in numbers, but he had a supporting general. No Lee bonus. He drives Warren back. That makes it much harder for Warren to make it this way. But it does make it a little easy. Well, not really, because Warren could just pack up and leave, right? But it does kind of force Warren to say, okay, I've got to try to make a run for it next turn. Now, of course, it means Sheridan's stuck somewhere stupid, too. He can probably get out of there, but we don't know for sure. That takes a lot of the pressure off the Confederates. Is it enough? I don't know. Depends on how many strength points. Okay, Ewell doesn't have many strength points. Longstreet has quite a few, but he's the guy who's defending these two spaces, so I can't move him. So he'll just sit and fortify, I guess. Which means there's not going to be a lot for the Confederates to do. They're probably going to pass anyway pretty soon, but at least I shoved Warren out of the way. Although maybe that was a risky move that I shouldn't have taken, because it's possible, Warren could have come out unscathed off the combat round if it had been a terrible roll and damaging one of the Confederate leaders, and it could have allowed it for a breakout. Confederates are in a position where they finally have to pass. I dug it in with Longstreet. I swung Anderson way down here. That's really kind of blocking the river. Only this ford is left. Breckinridge can maybe cover it, but eventually, maybe. I don't know. But the big problem with that ford, one, it leads into the forest, but two, it's really hard to operate coming out of there. It's beginning to look more, and some of these forces could come down and cover it if need be too. Right now, these forces had to stay here to create more problems for Warren, though. It's beginning to look more and more like the Union is going to have to find itself a port, maybe way down here, in order to drop over onto the James. And definitely not an optimal situation. Also had thoughts of maybe Burnside should be running back to get into supply of the railway. He's going to be able to get his forces probably. 1, 2, 3. He might have to force march with Stevenson, and he might get really unlucky with Wilcox. But in order to be in supply here, he's got to be here. But here's the problem. He would really like... Can I be in supply here? I doubt it. No, that's the extent. I don't even know if I'm in supply here. Let's back up 1 hex. At least I'm in supply here. See, the problem is the Virginia Central Railroad, I'm not going to be able to wreck it unless I can get into supply down here, which is possible, but it's beginning to look less and less likely, or run back to where I'm in supply here. And it's a lot of victory points. What, 12? No, 6. Okay, that's not that big a deal. The Richmond and Danville, which is down here, and the Weldon are the big ones that I kind of absolutely have to get. That's 26 victory points. If I can get that 26 victory points, I get a marginal victory no matter what. I can probably pump my victory up. Those do not look hard to get at this moment because there's not a lot of Confederates down here. And again, you get so fixated on preventing the Army of the Potomac from getting through, and you think you're defending, Richmond and Petersburg, and you're not. You're defending these damn railroads. But, it makes sense. It's just, it's a presentation of victory conditions that seems unfamiliar. So I end up with the wrong kind of defense in mind. I'm more worried. I should be more worried about my supply lines than I am about these fixed locations that are heavily garrisoned and everything that it looks like I'm supposed to be defending. And I forgot about that completely. That, you play this out, you're doing all this clever maneuvering and everything, and then you figure out, wait a minute, I didn't have my eye on the ball. And some major activity towards getting those railways has been undertaken. Gilmore and Smith combined to chase Ransom out of his space. That's important because his space was kind of blocking any reasonable supply route over to the Richmond and Danville. I could have busted my way through Manchester, I guess. And that might have been a safer activity as it is. Gilmore's going to have to rest next action phase in order to get forces sufficient enough to be able to do it. Well, actually get forces in position. But Smith doesn't need to. Smith could just advance and be in supply. He's got to be careful, though, because the supply range is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're at like 13 here. This guy, Ransom sitting here, was creating it so that I just couldn't quite get the supply range into place. Of course, Couts doesn't have enough force. He's a Cav leader. He's not going to be big enough to rip him up. But Smith with 4 strength points is large enough. Gilmore with 6 would be large enough, but he's not going to be both in position and organized. It's one or the other because he made the attack. Still haven't figured out what to do with Hancock yet. Whether to try to bust through or what. And as we push into the third action phase, Sheridan's got the possibility of running down through here. These zones aren't powerful enough. They're not primary zones. And this road hex, there's no roads between these, so we can slip through. Warren has no such luck. These guys are not just preventing Warren. They're preventing Burnside from moving down here in supply and being able to wreck the railroads. If I could get into this hex and get a 4 strength point unit in this hex, which happens in attachment, which is after, we got to get that core together before we worry about any of this. But if I could cover both of these hexes and have the main force here, I could wreck the railroad here. But it's logistically a harder problem to wreck this railroad up here while these forts are there. And then wrecking it down here, well, if I can protect this, that's not going to happen. Now, this isn't the most important railway, though. The most important one, I think I don't have a way to prevent from being wrecked. Hinks down here could make his way down this turn. He could just bypass Petersburg, and that'll force the Confederates to try to do something, right, to disrupt that. But they don't have a lot of troops. And likewise, down here, the Richmond and Danville, that's going to be really hard to prevent from getting wrecked. I don't think this one matters. Richmond and Danville and the Weldon are the 2 important ones. The South Side Railroad. Down here, the Norfolk and Peterson, these are all important. But the biggies are this one and the Weldon. And those 2 guarantee the Union a victory. And that's what I mean by, keeping my eye off the ball. But the thing is, nobody was really paying attention to it. And usually when I play, it's not happening. And then the Union says, oh, wait, I can win this way, And I'm not sure the Confederates can do what they need to do, which is, not just in this situation, but in general, which is prevent the Union from getting their main force across, in which case they can do whatever the hell they like, basically, and prevent smaller forces, including Burnside up here, from wrecking enough railroads to guarantee the Union a victory. So I think a Union player who has an idea of what he's doing, or even as long as the Confederate player doesn't really know what he's defending, probably will blunder into or gain a victory in this, which is okay, I just think that the victory conditions probably are scaled a little bit incorrectly. That's all I have to say. After a lot of piddling around, Burnside gathering his forces, mainly the Confederates, because Lee's awake right now, having the advantage in actions, being able to force the Union to go. And Gregg moving down here to start burning a couple of these stations. Hancock decides to take a move. Now, there's a lot of things he could have done. He could have forced marched. I fixated on hitting this again. It was a bad result. Took 2 more casualties. You can see the Union's actually going to lose a few points due to that. However, the railway stations make up for it, so if I take the 2 railroads, if I'm able to destroy the 2 railroads that I want to destroy, I'm going to get that marginal victory. And like I said, I'm honestly not sure that the Confederates can prevent it. it's just, they'd have to commit forces here. Now, maybe if the valley went better, if I didn't lose 4 strength points right away, there'd be a chance. But with what I was facing, I don't think I do. Breckenridge moved over to cover this bridge. It was beginning to look like, wow, I've got a long walk to get to a port so that I can do the transfer, and I probably can't make it this turn. I probably spent too much time hanging out here, which means, well, I couldn't embark this turn, but embarkation happens at the beginning of the turn, so it would be next turn. I couldn't do it next turn because I wouldn't be in position, but with a forced march, I would have been able to, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I would have missed by 1. With a forced march, I could have crossed here, though. And I didn't expect to get as good a roll as I did. Ended up, I would have needed a 6 to be able to cross without a forced march. Ended up getting a 5. I made the attack. Not good enough, you know. Another opportunity, though, would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I could have gotten here with a forced march. Put me right across from Breckenridge, who is not really, he's not dug in. He's a weak force. I know that he's a weak force. There's no fog of war here. So I would have been able to maybe force that bridge next turn. And if I can force my way across the river, I'm in the rich area, you know, the York Railroad is one of them. It's only worth a point. Richmond to West Point, which is probably, I don't know where West Point is. Huh. What the hell is West Point? Oh, that's out here. Okay, so that's easy to wreck. But that's only a single point. I mean, it's not worth burning or destroying unless something else comes, you know, where I've got no other use. We got Burnside set up on the RF&P. He needs to get to the Richmond Central for this to work. Now, and again, I don't have the supplies for that. What if I were running from here? 1, 2, 3. Still, I don't think I can reach there. I'm not sure. I might be able to find. Yeah, I think I end up just short of being able to hit the railroad. So it's either you cut it way up here, or you're taking a chance and you're not going to be able to cut it without supplies cutting through the hard area. So that's going to be a tough thing to do as long as the Confederates keep this position. And of course, I could still set it up so that I've got supplies running through there. And those 6 points is probably better than anything else Burnside can possibly do in this game. So that may be my focus for him, is to set that up. Other commanders, well, you know, down here, I'm trying to set myself up so I'll be able to wreck some of those rail stations, but it's a long way away. Hinks is going to make his run for down there, but he's got to be careful. He's got to make sure that his supply line doesn't get breached. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Basically, I can reach it from either direction, so I don't think he can be disrupted and prevented. I don't think he can be prevented from wrecking the Weldon, which is my big points there. And the Norfolk and Petersburg, it was only worth 3, but again, it's better than sieging Petersburg. The advantage of sieging Petersburg is if I could take it, I could wreck both rails in one full game turn. But as it stands, it doesn't seem to make much sense. I'm better off aiming for what I can do. Sedgwick just got the lucky roll. Hey, he's not dead yet. You know, I keep forgetting I'm sure I've missed some leader casualties. Sedgwick got killed here in this campaign. It's so hard to remember to watch for that it's not terribly likely, but it probably should have happened that there was a casualty at a corps level leader already. Anyway, he's crossed the river. It's too late for Warren, I think. See, here's the thing. I could actually trace supply all the way to here, but I can't get there because these guys have zones preventing me to push through, unless Sherman's willing to risk, getting into location where he really doesn't want to be. But because the supply only goes to here, it means that I can't trace supply through Sheridan into here. So I don't know. Warren may try to force the river defense line on his own anyway, with the thought that I might not be able to get into supply. It'll mean more losses, but I mean, this is the thing. If I get a lousy movement roll, and he can't force march, he's disorganized, I don't really have an easy way out. I've got another leader here, don't I? Yeah, I got another cav leader. Might be an opportunity. At the very least, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Right, so Warren got a lousy move, and he went to here. Sheridan didn't get a good move, couldn't place himself here. That wouldn't really help Warren, but it would get Sheridan into supply. But Sheridan actually had a route coming through here. He started here, so he was able to zip around to here, and he'll be in supply. The Confederate line is beginning to look really, really questionable now. Like, I'm going to have to fall back to the Chickahominy, which at this point becomes difficult, especially with these guys back here that I have to extricate. So life is getting more difficult, and there's, of course, a possibility that Wilson might place himself here, which would cause possible movement problems for the Confederates. Of course, that'll fatigue and disorder. Wilson will be disordered when he withdraws, but that's okay if he can, bag a couple Confederate divisions and keep them from being able to get into a useful position. That could be very annoying. So it's just this has been a lot of video on this turn, but it's been a very intense turn, actually. It means that the Confederates have had to abandon the Virginia Central Railroad, so Burnside will be able to destroy it at some point. Warren's still screwed. He's out of range of any possible supply that he can achieve, I think. Oh, I hope. What if it's down here? Yeah, he's probably a little out of range of there too, just because of the Confederate entrenchments that they're occupying. So he's going to suffer a little bit of a loss, but the Confederates have had to fall back from the position that was blocking him previously. And now Wilson burned a railway station and moved into a position to cause problems up here for Ewell, who's at some station or another. Stuart moved down to Cold Harbor. Doesn't look like it's going to be a major fortress there at this point. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Hincks got like one movement point. He's got a hard job getting to where he needs to go. And is forcing the Confederates to move, and they have some hard choices here. Early, for example, could move, but he's got disordered troops. Now, it could get him to the next defensive position, but he'd be able to reorganize his troops if he stands back and build a fortress here, or a fort there, which would inhibit Union operations here, but it might also trap the Confederates back there. The problem with it is Hill's already activated. Anderson's already activated. So we're not going to be able to completely withdraw from this area anyhow. We've got some coverage. Forces that are pulling out here. Ewell, again, probably going to fortify there. I kind of feel like I don't want my troops to be too. I don't really want the disorganized troops holding the line everywhere, but this location just may not be of any value to me. I think I'm going to move him and get him out of there. I think we're at the end of the line. The Confederates passed. I don't want to move Ewell out of here. His fort there will serve some purpose. Plus, he can recover. This serves some purpose. The only problem is Sheridan made the crossing here, and where Stuart is not. It's a nice crossroads, etc. Problem with the Chickahominy, in terms of defense, it's just a minor river, which means regular bridging can be done across it. So it takes a while. The Union has to basically spend an activation to drop the bridge, I think. I don't remember, I think they can build the bridge through an activation. I don't remember. Nope, only during recovery. So I've got to park next to the river, build the bridge, and at that point I've kind of telegraphed my move enough. The Confederates could come in, place some strength points in the way that I can't build the bridge for, or at the very least they can throw a defense into place after I've built it, into the actual hex that's being built. Plus, the bridge won't include a road, so it won't be easy to cross. All right. Yeah, this is just a creek here. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to hold the Union off very easily. And the turn ends with the Union building a supply base down here. It's not very important. I've got Bermuda 100. I don't really know why I would need one down there, but it looks like probably it's just a matter that there really aren't important places I could build one anymore. Burnside is going to be able to march down the Virginia Central and next turn wreck it. Hinks presumably can get to here. Might be able to get to the Weldon. Gregg is in position to burn some of the stations down there. Smith and Gilmore are in a position where they should be able to wreck the Richmond and Danville. It really looks like it's going to be almost impossible for the Confederates to halt anything at this point. I guess the only real question is how badly they're going to lose here. They successfully delayed the Army of the Potomac, but didn't do enough to prevent the Army of the James under Butler from really positioning itself so that it's able to do much, that it's able to do the things that it has to. And really, I mean, you could try to bottle it up in there. That's about the extent of it. But then I'd be short. It would probably take at least 6 strength points to bottle them up in the Bermuda 100 area, in that little curve in the James. And without that, I really don't see. If I committed those extra strength points, that's strength points I wouldn't have had up here. and the Union would have broken through, I think, earlier. And maybe that's better because there's so many points down here. I focused way too much on the Army of the Potomac, and it's gotten through anyway, you know. If there was a lot for it to do where it is, it would be able to do it.